Hi, my name is Simon from CramTheExam and welcome to another video where I walk you through another English exam question explaining what the answers are and why the answers are the answers. In this video I'm going to look at the CAE listening part 2, I think it is, part 2, yes, part 2 question. Sentence completion. This question you can find on the excellent website examenglish.com. The link to examenglish.com and to this website will be to this question, will be in the video description below the video. So if you haven't checked out examenglish.com, not only for the CAE but for other English exams as well, plenty of resources. I really recommend that you pop along and have a look. Okay, the sentence completion exercise for the CAE. Let's go through some basic rules first. In each gap, you're expected to write a single word or a short phrase. In the handbook for the advanced exam, it doesn't give you a maximum amount of words. In the FCE, for example, it says you can only write a maximum of 3 words. In the for the CAE Part 2 sentence completion question, it doesn't say it. It just says a word or a short phrase. Make of that what you will. But one thing it does say in the handbook is that the spelling must be accurate. The spelling must be good. So in the FCE, you could get away with small spelling mistakes. At this level, no spelling mistakes are allowed. You are allowed the British English variant or the American English variant, not a problem, but there cannot be any other spelling mistakes. Also, in writing your answer, you've got to make sure that your answer grammatically fits with the sentence that you're given to complete. So if it doesn't grammatically fit, then you won't get the point. So you're paying attention not only to what the answer should be from the listening, but that it grammatically fits and completes the sentence that you're completing. And we'll have a look at that in one of the questions in a second. Okay, so over my head and behind me you can see the script and you can see the answers. So let's find out why the answers are the answers. Let's start off with what Joel says. The first question. The talented 10th was a label given to those African Americans who had good social positions and were educated. As always, we're looking for vocabulary links. And the talented 10th clearly is a vocabulary link. So before you do the listening, you should be highlighting vocabulary that you expect to hear or you might hear a synonym of. And clearly talented 10th is something you would expect to hear. So when the person talking says talented 10th, your ears should be pricked up and ready to listen. So it says here a name which was given to those members of the African American community who were educated and socially prominent. Socially prominent relates to good social positions, which leaves us with educated. And of course, it talks about African Americans, and that's mentioned also in our for question number 1. For question number 2, she left school and began singing her singing career at the well-known Cotton Club. Now, she left school. Where can we see this vocabulary? We see this written in a slightly different way at the end of this second paragraph. But when she started singing at the famous Cotton Club at the age of 16, she dropped out without a diploma. And of course, this diploma relates to going to school at Brooklyn Girls High. So she dropped out with a diploma. In other words, she dropped out means that she left the school, which links to this bit here, and began her singing career at the well-known Cotton Club, and which relates to when she started singing at the famous Cotton Club. So vocabulary links here. And when you're reading this question, you should be thinking, I'm listening for a name of a club. And that's exactly what we've got here. Her mother was keen that Leonard's singing career would bring about the collapse of racial barriers. So you should be listening for anything to do with Leonard's mother and that what Leonard's mother wants. And we can see this in the next paragraph. Leonard's mother, Edna, had hoped that Leonard could use her performances to break down race barriers. Break down race barriers, the same as bring about the collapse of. Now, here, I go back to to what I said about making sure that your answer is grammatically correct. And this is a tough example, let's say, because race barriers is a noun phrase. In the answer, we can't use, or rather it suggests that we don't use race barriers, but we use an adjective followed by a noun. And certainly race, if you look at the main three dictionaries, so Merriam-Webster, Oxford and Collins, they don't have race as an adjective. They only have race as a noun. Other online dictionaries have race as an adjective, so make of that what you will. But here it suggests racial barriers. I think this is a bit tough. I think the answer can also be race barriers as well. As a noun phrase, that fits and grammatically fits very well. So I think race, if you wrote down race barriers should be fine. And also in the handbook for the CAE Advanced, it does say if you write down the words which are used in the listening task, you should be correct. Once again, there's an argument as to what exactly should means, but I would say racial barriers is okay, and I would say race barriers is okay. That's just me. Lena refused to sing for audiences of servicemen and prisoners which were segregated. So you're listening out for keywords. Prisoners, servicemen. Servicemen, of course, relates to any of the services. And audiences. So we're looking for groups of people together. And then we've got the context which is provided for us as regards what kind of servicemen they are. They are soldiers. So during World War II, when she was entertaining soldiers and prisoners of war, so this is our servicemen and prisoners, and then there's the discussion about segregation. And then at the end, and she said, oh, where is it now? She soon refused to perform for such occasions. Perform, of course, is our vocabulary link to refuse to sing. Refuse to perform, refuse to sing. And the answer, of course, is segregated, which we can see. Where is that? At the beginning. Here we go. She was always being asked to perform for groups which were segregated in terms of colour. So here you've got to listen carefully. There's vocabulary links to the question all throughout this paragraph, but the one-word answer that we're looking for is in the middle of that discussion. So you've got to listen very carefully and pick out the correct details. When Lena entered Hollywood, black actors were generally only hired to act in the roles of what? Maids and butlers. So key vocab, the roles of some kind, particularly as regards Hollywood. So we're talking about films, particularly as it says black actors. So you're thinking films, black actors, roles. What kind of roles are we looking for? This is the vocabulary links that should be that should be floating around your head when you're doing this listening. And indeed, it goes on to talk about Hollywood, and it goes on to talk about black actors. So clear vocabulary links. Rarely had the chance to play anything more than maids and butlers. So to play anything more, to play a role would link to act in the role of, and then of course we have our answer, maids and butlers. While she was working for Hollywood, Lena found that during the editing process, much of her spoken work was removed from the film. Why is it editing process? Well, it says here, many of her lines were cut. If your lines are cut, it means that your lines are removed. And of course, we're talking about her possibility to, or the chances she had to act. Well, that's the context of the listening. And then it says many of her lines were cut during the editing process. And we can see that here. So this is just swapping the clauses around, but that's why our answer is the answer. Lena spent a lot of the 1950s working in nightclubs due to her being considered a communist. So key vocabulary here, 1950s, communists, or communism, that kind of thing. So that's the vocab we're looking out for, and we can start to pick that up here in the penultimate paragraph. Anti-communist machine, 1950s, communist sympathizer, etc., etc. And then it says, unable to work on television and movies. So as a result, she had to work somewhere, and where's my vocabulary link? And you can find it in the sentence just afterwards. At this time, however, she continued to sing in nightclubs and made some of her best recordings. And then it goes on to talk about the 1960s. So we've got the context established through vocabulary links very, very well here. And that's why our answer is nightclubs. And then at the end, it says most people will remember Lena for her resonant voice. And that relates to this. But what she will be remembered for most of all, that clearly links to this bit here, must be her ability to move generations of audiences with her shimmering, resonant voice. So we've got a little bit of separation here between what she'll be remembered for most of all, and then what it is that she'll be remembered for. So you've got that separation, which is filled in by all of this language. So you've got to, once you hear those vocabulary key clues, links, you've got to keep on listening to find out what the noun is. And clearly we need a noun here, in this case an adjective plus noun, and that's why the answer is resonant voice. And there we go. That's why I think the answers are the answers. If you got something different, if you disagree with me, if you would like me to explain my thinking in a little bit more detail or perhaps a bit slower, let me know in the comments below the video and I will get back to you. Okie dokie. Thank you very much for watching the video and I'll see you again soon.